Hey, what's going on, guys? This is AndrewChicken, and welcome back to another video. In Season 7, Paladins is getting a brand new item store, with a bunch of new items and reworks to existing items that has the goal of shaking up the meta. And we actually got to test it on the PTS, and I was very pleasantly surprised with how balanced most of it seemed to be. There were some scary things that we were looking out for, like the scaling on the damage reduction items, the strength of some of the new items like Horde and Trigger Scent, and overall the general balance of having a much cheaper but also much broader selection of items to choose from. And yeah, some of the items were a bit strong or a bit weak, but for the most part, none of it was really that game-breaking, and that's very, very good, because you don't want to have one item or two items or three items that are just so dominant you feel like you're forced to buy them all the time. But there was one item on the PTS that really stuck out like a sore thumb as being brutally dominant and turning every match into, well, a pillow fight. And that item was, of course, Guardian. Now, Guardian got buffed in a pretty massive way on the PTS, and there's actually a lot of really deep analysis that goes into why Guardian getting buffed the way it did had a much larger impact on the game than anyone really anticipated, because of really just the systemic way that shields in this game work and the way that the item economy works in this game. And so I want to analyze today why Guardian has been such a tough item to balance, because it went from being D-tier trash in Season 6 to being literally quite possibly the best item in the Season 7 item store on the characters that could buy it. And there's really a lot to talk about, so let's just dive right in. So here we are in Season 6, where we can take a look at the current versions of Guardian and Wrecker. Now, the first thing you'll notice straight away is that both of these items are the exact same price, 300 credits. However, Guardian increases the effectiveness of shields by up to 30%, whereas Wrecker increases your damage to shields by up to 90%. So Wrecker is 3 times as effective as Guardian. And in Season 6, Guardian is effectively a throw pick on basically every tank, because the scaling simply isn't high enough, but also the price is the exact same. And it creates a dynamic where most of the time it's simply not worth it to buy this item. Because, well, if you have Guardian at level 3 and Wrecker at level 3, then you effectively have Wrecker 2. Is kind of how you can think about it versus a shield. And that is usually more than enough damage to still destroy the shield very, very quickly. And yeah, you have spent a lot of credits to max out Guardian just for that to be the effect. But also, if you max out Guardian, all it takes is Wrecker 1 to completely mitigate the amount of credits that you spent. So it's a very steep investment, and it's usually just not worth it. But when you increase the scaling of Guardian to the degree that they did in Season 7, it actually turns things around and creates a very unhealthy dynamic. And so I want to explain kind of how that works. So here we are back in the Season 7 item store. Now, it's sadly just a picture. The PTS is down right now. But what you can see immediately is, first of all, Guardian is now cheaper than Wrecker. So it is now 250 credits as opposed to Wrecker's 275 credits. That's already a big deal, because now the tank who is buying Guardian is spending less to maximize their shield health than the enemies who are buying Wrecker. But also, I know you can't see it right now because I can't click on Guardian and show you, but they doubled the scale of Guardian from 30% to 60%. And this is a huge deal. Just to show you the effect of this scaling, this is a Twitch clip somebody got of me playing Tyra on the PTS. As you can see on the bottom right here, we are on the PTS because I've got Horde, and I've got Wrecker 3. The enemy con, you can't see it in this clip, but I can tell you for a fact, you can go back and watch yourself, the actual match, he has Guardian. A lot of it. And so, yeah, look at how much I have to put into the shield to destroy it. Zone. One clip. Can't even see the shield health, but it doesn't feel like it's going down that much. Two clip. Two. Now, the shield went down there, but it's not because the shield broke. It's because Khan manually put the shield down because it was getting low. And you can tell that because he puts the shield up just a moment later. It's not destroyed. He just put it down himself, manually. As I actually said there, and there you can see the shield is back up. So 2 full clips from Tyra with Wrecker 3, not enough to take down the shield. That's concerning. And throughout the rest of the clip, and it's back. I just continue to shoot shields, for the most part, because they also have a Fernando on the team.
Jeez,
Look at how much I'm shooting with shields versus the actual
the shields because of how zone.
I'm just pumping clip after clip after clip into these shields. And when one shield goes down, they have another shield tank with Guardian who puts up another shield, and all of a sudden I have to spend more and more clips to destroy that shield. And it's just a vicious cycle. And there's a lot of good reasons for this, but there's also a lot of reasons that extend past just raw health increases as to why this is so unhealthy for the game. So first of all, let's just talk about the economy and scaling of these two items. Guardian now scales up to 60%, Wrecker still only scales up to 90%. So already off the bat you can see, if both players have maxed out Guardian versus Wrecker, now the person with Wrecker effectively only has Wrecker 1, which is a pretty huge deal. That means you're destroying the shields a lot more slowly. But also, if you don't buy Wrecker, the enemy's shields are just so much stronger. You can see with Wrecker 3 in that clip, I couldn't even destroy the shield in 2 full clips. Imagine if I didn't have Wrecker as Tyra there. Yeah, the shield is now so strong that I'm forced into buying Wrecker, but now Wrecker is only moderately stronger than Guardian, meaning I'm shooting shields a lot of the time and they are just not going down. And now you can also realize, okay, well wait, hold on. Guardian, only one shield tank can buy that, right? Or like, if I'm the shield tank, right, if I'm Fernando and I buy Guardian, I can only buy Guardian once, right? Max it out. Alright, I have one source of Guardian. But the enemy team, they can buy multiple sources of Wrecker, right? I can have Tyra and Leon buying Wrecker and shooting my shield, right? That's double Wrecker, so they can still destroy my shield pretty quickly, right? Well, A, barely, because of the scaling of the items, but also, look at the amount of credits that both teams are now spending, right? So Fernando only has to buy Guardian 1, 2, and 3, right? So if we do the math here in my little calculator, that's 250 plus 500 plus 750. That is 1,500 credits expended by Fernando. Now, for just one person on the enemy team to buy Wrecker, you need 275, right? Plus 550 plus 825. So that is 1,650 credits from one person, but now for multiple people to buy Wrecker to finally start to combat these shields, you have to multiply that by potentially 2. Or potentially 1,650 times 3 if you have multiple shield tanks on the team, right? So you're incurring a massive credit cost on the enemy team who has to buy Wrecker for very little credits invested of your own. Especially if you as the tank decide, hey, let me buy some Horde and maybe accelerate my credit gain even further. The enemies could also buy a Horde, but still, the amount of credits expended by them is far exceeding the amount of credits spent by the shield tank, and the shield tank is just getting so much value from this. But it extends even further, beyond just the systems of, oh, increasing health and item economy and blah blah blah, when you actually take a look at what a shield does. Alright, so what is the difference between player health and shield health? Well, if you shoot a player, watch my ultimate charge, okay? If I just shoot, you see my ultimate charge increases rapidly, right? If I do damage, it builds up my ultimate charge, but it also gives me credits. For every 6,000 credits I do, or every 6,000 damage I do, rather, eventually you'll see a damage dealer amount of credits pop up, and this doubles for damage characters. So for Tyra here, I'll get 40. For most characters, it's just 20. So let me finally do this. There it is. Alright, so there's my damage dealer proc of credits. But watch what happens when they put a shield up. So if I shoot this shield, my ultimate does not go up, not even a little bit. Look at that. It's stuck at 60, and I just keep spamming the shield. I'm not getting credits either. Look at this. I have destroyed multiple Makoa bubbles now. No damage dealer credits are popping up. So when you spend most of the match shooting shields, your credit economy goes way down. Way down. And your ultimate economy goes way down. I've only gained 8% ultimate charge during this time, and I'm still shooting the shields. So this is really bad, because when you increase shield health by 60%, you're really hurting the pacing of the game. But it gets even worse, right? Because shield tanks generate credits when you damage their shields, right? Stealthy now has gotten a bunch of credits because I have destroyed so many shields. Only at 77% ultra charge, by the way. So, yeah. Like, that really helps tanks actually buy even more items, whereas the damage champions on the enemy team are just screwed, because they have to chew through so many shields. I still have barely gotten any credits. I'm only going up at 5 credits a second here, because we're in team deathmatch, but I'm getting no other credits by shooting the shield. I just keep spamming and spamming and spamming. No credits, no ultimate charge. This is one of the biggest reasons why this Guardian buff is way more impactful than anyone thought, because it hurts the pacing of the game so much and makes it even more one-sided in the shield tank's favor. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. Another reason why this shield buff is so strong is because some of the shields already had really good scaling to begin with. One that actually surprised me because I didn't even consider how big it was Ashe's shield. It starts out at 4,500 health at the base siege shield, but then it increases with the talent to 7,000 shield health because of this 2,500 health increase. And then when you add 60% on top of that, you get a shield that's over 10,000 hit points, which is just absurd. That is so many hit points. And when you have these big deployed shields, right, that are extended out from the character that block damage in the character's stead, they also give the characters an opportunity to cleanse Cauterize. So if I'm a tank, and I take a bunch of damage, right? I take 3,000 damage, I need that healed up, and then I put the shield down. They have to chew through 10,000 damage before they can hit me, and that's more than enough time for me to cleanse Cauterize and start to heal all that back up, making my actual character health even tankier. I'm able to regenerate that better. So it's a compounding issue, where when you make shields scale this high, oh my god. The impact on the game is just devastating. Another thing you have to keep in mind when we're talking about Guardian and Wrecker is how these items actually scale on the things they affect, right? Guardian scales up the health of the shield, whereas Wrecker scales the damage that you do to the shields, but that is based off of your weapon damage. So, if I'm playing a champion with a relatively low sustained damage output, like for example, most flanks in this game, Eevee, Maeve, Vatu, you name it, Wrecker's not actually super helpful on them when it comes to destroying those big shields. It does help on them when, trying to one-shot or two-shot a Torvald protection on the target they're flanking, but for those really big shields, it's really not super helpful on them compared to how effective it is on other characters. You'll still probably end up buying it on them, but you have to realize that the scaling of Wrecker on a character with low DPS isn't nearly as effective as when Guardian is scaling at 60% and then also scaling on a shield that has 5, 6, 7,000 hit points, right? Those big shields get a lot more benefit out of a percent-based scaling amplification than a low damage output weapon. That's why when you see people playing tanks, they don't usually buy Wrecker for the enemy shield tank. Let's say I'm playing Ashe, even with Slugshot to increase my single target DPS further. I'm still only doing about 450 damage per second, which is one of the lowest damage outputs in the game. If I increase that by 90%, I'm going to be doing roughly the same amount of damage per second to a shield as Eevee would without Wrecker. So if you have a team comp with relatively low damage output champions, right? Let's say, you have your tanks, then you have your support, then your DPS options are, let's say you have an Eevee on the team, and then, I don't know, who else has a low single target DPS output? How about Shaolin, right? Low single target sustained DPS versus a shield, right? He has really good bursts against squishies, but not against shields, right? So you have all these characters. Even if they buy Wrecker, multiple of them, let's say we have Eevee and Shaolin, and even the support buying Wrecker, that collective combined damage output is still going to struggle against, let's say the enemy team has Fernando and Makoa with Guardian, they're going to struggle massively to destroy those shields with Guardian level 3, 60% scaling. So you see how this compounds to be a problem even further when you have the wrong type of team comp. Yes, if you have high single target damage output, sustained damage output characters like Victor, Octavia, Tyra, yeah, that'll help out and it'll feel a little bit better to play against those shields. But you don't always get that opportunity, whether you get unlucky in a ranked draft or You're just the average Joe trying to play some casuals, and you know how casuals drafts are. You know, they can be very wonky. Even if you have a semi-decent draft, you still might not have the right characters to bust down these shields. Before, it wasn't as much of a problem, because Wrecker scaled a lot higher than Guardian, and so the shields were, yeah, still weak enough, even with Guardian 3, that you could destroy them without having to fret too much. But now the scaling is too high, and the issue just compounds. Now, that leads us to ask the question, well, what the heck can we even do to fix Guardian? And that's not something I have all the answers for, because I have my own ideas for some of the things that you can do with Guardian, but they're not exactly perfect solutions either. The first, and probably most likely solution that they'll choose in the short term here, is just to nerf the scaling of Guardian, right? Keep it cheaper than Wrecker, but maybe make it scale to 45%, or shoot, they could even go as low as like 36%, or something like that, right? Just a small buff to the scaling, not nearly as high as 60% though, and that would be a good start, because 60% is just ridiculous. But who knows if that'll actually end up being healthy in the long term for the game and for the state of the item as a whole. Another thing you could do is you could try and fix the fact that by its very nature, it's an item that gets countered directly by another item. This is something that I haven't really bought up yet, but it is a very unique dynamic for Guardian, where Guardian is really the only item that has this problem. There is basically no other system of items where one item directly counters another item in this game. You could maybe, kind of, this is stretching a lot, make the argument that Haven counters Life Rip because you do less damage to the enemies and so lifesteal less. But that's not the same at all. Not even remotely. Not even a little bit. And so if you wanted to address the issue of Guardian only being countered by one item and just, you know, Wrecker constantly having to do like a rock, paper, scissors with Guardian where one is constantly forcing the other out, right? Or forcing the other to be weak, then you could maybe make Guardian also affect deployables. And this is not a perfect solution either, by any stretch of the imagination. There are many critiques of that. I have proposed it, but I admit there are many flaws to that idea as well. Because let's say we make Guardian 250 credits, 36% scaling, and then it affects deployables as well. Well, with deployables, you kind of run into the same issue with shields, where they don't generate ultimate charge, they don't generate credits, and if deployables are also really strong, that's a lot of fluff that you're shooting that's not generating you credits. It's not moving the game along, and it's just blocking damage and being a nuisance, right? And also, Guardian would still be countered by items directly. It would be countered by 2 items now. One reason why I like this idea is because it would make Bulldozer more of a savory choice, and Bulldozer is one of the least picked items in the game because most of the time you don't need help destroying deployables. But if you did need help destroying deployables with Guardian all of a sudden, then maybe you'd pick up Bulldozer more. But it would also force more of an investment from some of those damage champions against certain comps, or against certain characters, right? Imagine if Barrick bought Guardian, it affected deployables and then also affected his turrets, and then imagine if Forgefire was stronger. You can see that being an issue as well, or you could see certain things like Ying being an issue all of a sudden with Guardian. That would be kind of weird, right? Or maybe even Inara being somewhat of an issue, or Azan. Who knows? So I admit that's not a perfect system either, and yeah, it's, well, one of the only solutions I have, and that's where I leave it to you. The comment section down below, because I want to hear from you what you would do to change Guardian to try and make it more effective and more healthy for the game in the long term, where we don't have this issue where it's either garbage or game-breakingly busted, right? Because it's a very delicate system when you're talking about shields in this game. It can go from 0 to 100 real quick. One thing I've seen a few people talk about is diminishing returns on Guardian, but it doesn't make sense. Because diminishing returns happens when you stack multiple sources of the same status, right? Or the same effect, right? So one good example of diminishing returns is if I head on over to Inara and I buy Mother's Grace, right? and then if I Haven on top of that,
Oh,
because I'm
very
stacking
nice.
multiple sources of damage reduction, I get the 40% from Mother's Grace, and then the 18% from Haven gets severely diminished, so I don't end up with 58% damage reduction. I end up with something, I think, more along the lines of 50%, or it could be even lower than that. I'm just ballpark estimating the value there. But with Guardian, like, you're only stacking one source of shield amplifier, right? Like, even when it comes to the cards, right? You're not necessarily stacking the same source of cards. Let me go to a character who has a shield card like that. Let me go back to Ashe, right? Yeah, I have this build with Watchtower 5 in it. That's just a base health increase of 1,250. Guardian is a percent-based health increase. And so that wouldn't even incur diminishing returns in the first place. To get an example of that, you can look at a
Almost as good as
character
I make.
which has flat healing on an ability. Like, for example, Bomb King with the King's Court card. This is a flat heal for each sticky bomb you detonate that's independent of the percent-based scaling of life rate. It doesn't even matter if you hit an enemy or not, you still get healed, so that wouldn't have diminishing returns. The same thing applies to these shield items here, right?
I should upgrade
Where this
my
shield
gear.
card would not incur diminishing returns with Guardian at all. And Guardian is the only percent-based shield amplifier in the game, so that's just that doesn't work. That's kind of a fundamental misunderstanding of shields. The one form of diminishing returns that you could do would be to cap it, like how Deft Hands is capped, where once you hit a reload speed amplifier of 60%, you're done. You get no more reload speed after that. But that has its own issues. It feels more like a band-aid fix than anything, because let's say we set the cap at 10,000. Well, some shield tanks would heavily benefit from Guardian scaling at 60%, and they still wouldn't even hit the 10,000 health threshold, right? Let's say we're talking about a shield that has 5,000 health. Well, if we amplify that by 60%, that's not going to reach 10,000, and so the cap is completely redundant. But if you make the cap too low, then you just disincentivize buying Guardian in the first place at all. So I don't think that's the right solution either, but, I mean, I guess it's a thought. I don't know, I just wanted to kind of bring that up as the last sort of point to try and help with this Guardian scaling. But at the end of the day, this is the hardest item to balance in the game as it stands in 2024. I almost said 2023, I'm still getting used to that. But, yeah, I mean, none of these items really have the same dynamic. Most of these items can be balanced by just adjusting a few numbers here and there. But with Guardian, it's a lot harder because of how much it affects the game, and also because of its direct sort of battle with another item in the item shop, where no other item has that dilemma. So that's, yeah, a really tough situation for Evil Mojo, and I don't envy them trying to figure out how to balance this, because, yeah, it has either been the worst item in the game, or the best item in the game. And it's like, oh, that's tough. That's really tough. But I do appreciate them for trying to give this item some love and trying to, yeah, make it not trash at the end of the day. Because what we all want is an item store where no item feels mandatory, and all the items feel impactful, and there are good reasons to pick up every item, especially depending on the playstyle you're going for. That's what we want at the end of the day. And for the most part, like I said at the start of the video, I'm pretty happy with the direction the item store is going in. I think a lot of this is helping to break up the monotony and create some new playstyles for characters, and I'm really happy to see it. But yeah, this one item, major pain on the BTS, and I wanted to analyze why that is, because there really are some deep reasons as to why it's unhealthy that I feel like people haven't really articulated at all. They've just been complaining about Guardian, myself included. I've just complained about Guardian, being like, this is too strong. I haven't offered insightful thoughts on this until now. And so I wanted to really bring that to the discussion and explain what the heck is going on behind the scenes to make this item way more impactful than anyone ever thought. But, yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Make sure to like this video if you found it informative, if you found it helpful, if you enjoyed it. And also make sure to subscribe, because I'm going to be making a ton more videos on this update. I mean, there is so much to cover, so many builds to try, so many new playstyles to explore. We've already seen a little bit of that with Yagharoth and the new item meditation, and there is so much more to do from here. So stay tuned for that. Follow me on Twitch. Once the new update drops, we will be playing so much Paladins. It's crazy. And also join the Discord server if you want to talk about it with some other people. Lastly, if you want to support me, please consider A, checking out the memberships program down below. I never plug that enough, but you can join this channel and get some sweet perks in the process. You can also head on over to my Nexus, nexus.gg/AndrewChicken. There you can buy crystals, the season pass, DLC, mount bundles, all that wonderful stuff that Evil Mojo offers, and more, and support me in the process. It's officially affiliated with Evil Mojo. It's a great partnership, a great way to support your favorite content creators, so I would recommend checking that out as well if you want crystals for the new update. But with all that being said, thank you guys for watching. I will see you all next time. Peace out.